All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Public Works Committee meeting for Wednesday, September 27th at 5 p.m. First agenda item is open forum. It doesn't look like there's anyone here for open forum. So I'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the memo from Amber Peterson and a map for a master, excuse me, a bike path considerations from the parks master plan. So I think y'all have got this in your packet. This is the map. And it just gives you an idea of where Parks Department would like to place future bike trails. And so why we're interested in that is they do appear on a few of the roads that we're looking at for our 2025 road bond. In particular, Church Street is probably the highest priority for that. Where they would like to add a trail, and then there's a memo from Amber here as well, and she outlines the type of trail that they would be looking for, whether it's painted or separated. And then they also gave it a priority, low, medium, and high. So within our 2025 road bond, just to go down their list in order. So the backage roads are not currently being considered for the 25 road bond. Neither is Camp Lincoln Road. Centennial Lane is not a, yeah, it's not on the road project. Church Street is, that would probably be one we would want to take a closer look at moving forward. 13, 18, and 77, same thing, they're not on this project. Lakers Lane, we may look at this with this project, but I don't think it'll get in there. It may be something we talk about outside of the road bond. This is basically running from the school down to the existing trail on 18, so we would like to establish that, but we'll have to talk about if we want to include that with the 25 road bond, or if we want to do that at some point in the future when either some kind of a state grant or other funding comes available, or when that road is actually resurfaced. There might be some other improvements we'd like to make to that street, but right now the pavement itself is in good condition, so I don't think we're really looking at that at this time. Middle Cullen is not on the road bond, neither is Poplar. However, the trail that goes on Church Street would correspond with this one on Poplar, because the idea is that we're going to be making a loop coming off from the school, and it would head down Church Street, come down in Poplar, and tie back into the Paul Bunyan, which of course goes in either direction again. So Upper Roy Lake Road, she has that listed as a medium priority, and that one is going to be on the road bond for now. And we're talking, and she's suggesting maybe a painted trail for that one. So we would have to look at what would have to be done, if anything, to the road other than painting to include a bike path in Upper Roy Lake Road. And Wolf Chase, that's also not currently on a list of roads that's being considered for 2025. So with that quick summary of it, do any of you have comments or questions?
I do.
Okay.
Well, I wish Amber was here to explain how she got these priorities, how the committee done. I understand as far as the road construction is concerned, you know, there is no real problem here, most of it. But I would like to have her come to a meeting and explain where they came up with these priorities, because I don't agree with them at all. Basically, I know.
Well, I can say one thing, like for instance, the backage roads, I'm pretty sure with the funding source that we would be looking at with those, which is state funding, we'd be looking at their Complete Streets program, which includes bike paths. So it may be a lower priority for the Parks Commission, but it's going to be a high priority for our department. So,
well, there's two types of trails here, basically. They're the ones that would connect into the existing trail system.
Mhm.
Complete that. And most of these others are trails that are proposed to actually take the place of sidewalks that were never put in this. Basically is what it amounts to.
A lot of it, yeah.
Well, I think as far as funding is concerned, I'm not talking about backing program. As far as funding is concerned, I think the best chance would be the one that goes down County Road 77, because part of that is already there. The expensive part's already been put in, you know, at the Sportland Corners. Walking, all that stuff is there. So why wouldn't that take priority over the rest of these? You know, and besides the fact that it would connect two trails, which is something that probably should have been done to start with.
So I
just don't understand how.
Right. I don't know. I wasn't in on their meeting when they assigned that, so I can't really speak to it too
I'd
much.
like to have her come to meetings and tell us how it's going about.
I'll invite her.
Otherwise, I understand it because the rest.
Okay.
Am I missing something? Is there a key on the blue, black and red? Oh. Sorry, is there a key on here somewhere that I'm missing?
Well, the blues are Paul Bunyan.
Yep.
And the reds are the proposed.
Okay, and the black is existing?
I apologize. I'm having a hard time seeing the difference in colors, but
Yeah, that's the one that goes up from 77 up Lower Lake Road around. That's the one we're doing right now. Comes up there. It's that one. That's the only one that's there.
I don't know what that one is.
Right.
That's-
oh,
I just wish you would have put a key on here.
sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate the key for the business districts, but the whole purpose of this is for a trail,
Right.
and you didn't put a key for the trails.
She just took one of our planning
Planning and zoning.
zoning map and just went on. It wasn't done out of any kind of computer or trying to.
No, I realize that. I just wish you would have said what the red versus blue
Yeah.
versus black means.
I think we're gonna end up making this into more of a professional map too.
Sure.
So I think we were kind of just hoping to get some comment on, just on the general, where the trails are painted, separated.
Okay.
And then it will make a better map for future reference. This map's gonna outlive this, you know, the members on this committee is probably, so. But yeah, we can, I'll mention that to her and we'll bringing it back, an improved version when she comes.
Coordinating these trails with your street reconstruction, you know, is really important, as you know, and I mean, Lower Royal Lake Road is a good example of that right now.
Mhm. Yep.
So if you can coordinate that on some of these other streets, you know, that's really the way to do it. If you can, you know, figure out the funding and stuff.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, and it's just an it's a great opportunity to consider it, you know. I would say we probably have, added a lot of bike trail recently and you know, to put it on any of these streets is just gonna be a bonus if we can swing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but at least we can say we considered it. If they don't build any of it, we've at least considered it and people can recognize that then.
Yes.
So,
So every one of these roads that are on there are not very conducive to having. trails.
Sure.
So they'll all take a little bit of work. Like you said, if we're gonna tear up Church Street, it is the time to look at it.
Uh-huh.
yeah, and in case of that one too, it does tie into a lot of the things the park department wants to do with the existing park too, so it's probably, for that one, I think it's a good time to look at it and I'm hoping there's at least a 50-50 chance of us getting that one put in. Any other comments on the bike path map before I move on to the next item?
I appreciate her doing this.
Yeah, well, she brought it in front of the committee too, so I mean, this is.
Yeah.
It's got some backing with it, so. Moving on, still in line with our 2025 road bond, I came up with a preliminary timeline for how that should proceed. I did get some input from both Jenny and Joe as far as items that we should consider when we're doing that, and it's by no means complete and will change as the project gets closer. But just to kind of go through a couple of the items that are on it, this first one, this will be of interest to you guys here, particularly our next meeting is already we won't have a meeting for this group. MinDOT's gonna be having an open house discussing the 371 corridor. And I thought it would be a good time, because it's at the same time as this meeting. You guys are certainly welcome to come and attend. It's open to the general public to give their thoughts on MinDOT's study of 371, and where that ties in for us a lot is the backage roads are a part of that discussion. So, yeah. I also have I handed out new agendas to everyone here, and I added that, so it's
That'll be here.
25th, 5 to 7 PM.
That'll be here.
That'll be right here in this room.
I think we should
Yeah.
all plan on being here for that.
So,
Who's bringing food?
MinDOT. I don't know if they're bringing, they'll be here. Sure, yeah. Moving on from that, I guess this might be a good time for Amber to come if it works out for this November meeting I've got on here, solidifying the trail and bike path routes and the map. So maybe try to get something put together that looks a little easier to read and see, and we'll comment further on it at that time. Maybe we can even, I don't know, I'll just leave it at that for now. Moving forward from November into December, we'll be looking at an engineering proposal for scope and initial cost estimate for the 2025 road bond. So that would probably come from Widseth. And this next comment mostly came from Joe. So Widseth will provide a proposal for preparing the preliminary report. Widseth would present the preliminary report at the open house in January. So I think what we would be looking at is in December is the scope of that engineering work we would like Joe to work on that time. And then hopefully, am I right when I say that, Joe? Is that how you see that happening?
I would like to rather do a preliminary report, you know, and then still work on the surveys and get that, because I'm assuming that we'll go and design on whatever that should have chosen after that. And design wise, to get going on things, if we can get survey done before snow falls is always the thing. And we all know that's a roll of dice right now.
So working off a conversation you and I had the other day. To do this engineering, I think that would probably be a good time for us to, would it be November or December, we'd want to consider your cost for that?
Yeah, I would think that, well, now. I guess it's looking at the deal is, rather go and do a preliminary report first. And present that, and then the council and you can make your decisions on what part of the preliminary report is all, and then that way. I can give you a better number to give your proposal for doing the design. Otherwise, I'm kind of guessing.
I see, okay.
So I really would like to start out with the preliminary report, go through that. I don't need the preliminary report. I don't need the survey to do the preliminary report. Sometimes, yeah, you can do it that way. But I can get enough of the numbers, put it together so that you've got a really good idea of what the cost would be.
Okay,
And then, you know, at the same time, I'm thinking that we will be doing the survey on it. And then by that time, January, then we'll make a decision to what we want to move forward with. I can give you a proposal for that. and start.
So we'll be talking about this preliminary report in January.
I think we could bring it to there, yeah, January, if I get, if I get directed to do it. I have to give you a proposal to do it too yet, so. It's kind of working out all those gadgets right now.
So is it intention to do any construction next summer?
No, 2025 is the
25.
earliest. And kind of jumping out of turn here a little bit. I call it a 2025 road bond, and parts of it likely would happen in 25. There are parts of it that may have to be coordinated with other projects going on in the city or funding. So it's possible some of these projects that are part of this road bond may not happen until 26 or 27.
Yeah. But at the earliest will be
The
25.
earliest will be 25.
Oh,
This
Uh,
is a big,
It's a big deal.
it's a big job.
yeah, but we got roads that are falling apart.
We got 9 miles of road and I don't know how many thousands of feet of, I've got
Bad stuff.
4 parking lots, 3 parking lots, basically.
Yeah.
It's a big venture.
Yeah. But the roads are really in tough shape. Some of them like Upper Roy Lake Road.
We were driving them and commenting on the fact that, you know, I come from the city's Maple Grove, so like roads get just beat to hell, beat to heck. But, these are missing all the oil. They're all dried out. They're all bad, but they held up for a long time.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of what I call alligator cat cracking, which shows subgrades bad. And there's not a lot of that, just your, cross, perpendicular.
past winter was really hard on them too.
Yeah. So. They held up a long time.
So then moving ahead to January, we'd be having that open house where we would get the preliminary report from Woodseth. And we'll get feedback from the general public, probably on the list of roads that we're considering. They'll get a chance to hear Joe's preliminary report and see if it causes any comment. They'll have a moment to comment on that, and then from there, the city council would, like you say, make any changes to the scope of the project. So that Joe can put together a better cost estimate and stuff. I have February of 24, we would review the scope and initial cost estimate. I don't know if that still makes sense to you.
I would say that the preliminary report, that will have the initial cost.
It will, okay,
Yeah, because that'll all put the numbers together.
okay. So then this committee would look at that initial report and cost estimate. And we would probably try to set scope for final engineering and a final cost estimate. Does that make sense?
Recommendation of the council, maybe of some sort.
And then, moving towards May, we would be, I say we would probably be reviewing plans and specs for final cost projections, tweaking the project for construction. And then Woodseth would provide final plans and an estimated project cost to the city around May of 24. That seem reasonable?
So you aren't setting up a system like you had on the previous one where you did so many projects every year. This is all one project you're talking about.
So that last one was supposed to be all in 1 year too.
Oh,
It
what?
just got drawn out. There was some issues with sewer installation on Hazelwood, I think, and I can't remember what else came in. But it just got drawn out.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it was just spread out that way.
It wasn't intentional, no.
Okay.
We've tried to group them all together in one project, one for cost and two, just to minimize the disruption of the community.
Yeah.
So. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get it all done in 25. I don't know how it'll come together yet. We'll get a better handle on that after
Okay.
maybe next 6 months when we start working through some of this planning, I guess. So, and then this is preliminary too, but I kind of wanted to have this second open house for feedback on the final project in July, because then all of our seasonal people are here. They have a chance to comment. And any comments we hear on the final project there, I would hope there's not many, but if there are any, we'll try to incorporate those changes that are approved by the council and get a final cost estimate if possible, and be ready to go out for bid. We give a pretty broad window for going out to bid. We kind of want to judge what the market is going to be like for that. And so anywhere from September of 24 till January 25, we anticipate going out for bid for the project, with construction potentially beginning as early as May of 25. And hoping if it all works out, that we could possibly have it done as early as October of 25.
Wow.
Luck, weather, lots of things have to.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, 9 miles,
That's those 9 miles?
it'd be a challenge,
Yeah.
you know, it's an opportunity to do it.
It's better to start out this way though and slide and then, you're gonna slide probably.
But, there's some things in the project that are gonna maybe make it a little complex in certain issues. Some of the streets Joe and I were looking at, they're very simple. They're mill the old pavement that's there and put down new pavement, and it's really done.
Sure.
Some of them have a need for some drainage stuff that needs to be done. There's a little more cost there. We have to decide how much of that we want to do with each road. That'll be some of the stuff that we're gonna look at in here is, if we get the original, that initial price cost estimate. And if everybody has sticker shock, well, what can we pull out of it? So we'll be looking at some of those things and then some of the roads in here are quite a bit more complex, like City Hall Street is one of them that's being considered. And at the intersection with Main Street, we're considering, should there be a roundabout there? Well, that roundabout's likely to generate quite a bit of comments and.
Yeah.
And, what can we do?
Is there even enough space to allow for a roundabout?
We think so.
You'd have to probably purchase some property. There'd have to be some adjustments there with that.
Yeah, pitchforks.
You take that and like a bicycle trail on Church Street, that might cause that one to take a little longer too. If it happens, so. I have a couple caveats on the bottom here. As we work through this, there's likely to be some items added in here. A hearing for assessments if we decide that assessments are necessary to help pay for this. So that was one of the comments Jenny had, is that we may have to look at how to incorporate that if we need to, for assessment consideration, if the council feels that's needed.
Has there been a determination on assessments going forward, if that's gonna be a thing or not yet?
There is not. So
Okay.
it's been a discussion in the 16 years I've been here. Every time assessments have come up, the city council has declined to go there. Our current policy for assessment is anything that's requested can be assessed. Anything that's over and above ordinary road repairs can be assessed. So to give you an example, when we repaved Main Street, that was done without an assessment, but all we did is we repaved it. At that time, they were looking at things like wider sidewalks and bump outs and some decorative lighting, some of that. If they had moved forward with that, there likely would have been an assessment for that part of the project. Other places we allow for an assessment are if we were to accept roads that are currently private. There's a potential to assess those to bring them up to the city standards so that they can be accepted. Roads that are asked for resurfacing before their turn. So, if they're, right now we are operating under all the roads are on a 40-year cycle. And so if say roads are in a heavily trafficked area or some for some reason, somebody wanted it wider, narrower to accommodate a new business or something, that would probably be an assessment project.
That makes sense.
Otherwise, we're considering maintenance and it's coming out of the general fund at this time.
Nothing ever has been assessed though, has it?
Not in my time,
Yeah, I don't think so.
been a long, yeah. And I'm not sure that there will be this time. It really depends on how expensive it gets and, you know, what the council's mood is for entertaining it. So what other funding sources they can get. There are, we are getting, we talked about this at one of our last meetings about, there's some state funding coming our way. I think it's $86,000 this year, so that will help us avoid assessment. That amount is expected to increase as the years go on, so we'll see how that turns out. Any thoughts or questions on the timeline? Anything? Okay. Moving on. Our next item that we need to recycle is the recycling center. I worked with Tom McCauley on a sign to put up at the existing recycling center. Currently, we believe that's location will either be closed or relocated. And so inside your packet, I have given you what we believe that sign should say, and it just with a city logo at the top of the sign, beginning May 1st of 2024. We highlight that this drop-off location will either close or relocate. And then we give a little bit of direction to anybody who's currently using that site that would like to continue to recycle. So we say steps you should take. Contact your hauler to start curbside recycling. As you know, we have a curbside recycling ordinance now in place. All the haulers are familiar with that, who will be working in the city moving forward. And they're the best ones to contact as far as how to do curbside recycling. Each one handles it a little bit differently, but they are the experts at this, and so they will help you establish curbside recycling. Next, we outline, you can still have a drop-off recycling site to go to in Crow Wing County. It's at the county's landfill. They just built a huge new facility. It's state of the art. All the services that are available here are available there. The only thing is there's a little bit of an inconvenience driving out to the airport. So, and then we are going to be keeping people apprised of what's going on with the recycling project as we move forward. There will be information on the city's website. And so we would say, go there, look for updates, and I think there's also a spot on there where you can sign up for email updates, so you'll automatically be notified of changes. And then lastly, if all of that doesn't answer your questions, or if you have comments or want to offer support for relocating the recycling, or want to see it closed, or have other issues you'd like to say about the recycling, we offer the city's main phone line here, and they will likely put you in contact with me or one of the other staff members who is up on what's going on with the recycling, and we'll try to answer your questions as best we can.
So has the council given approval for you to put this up, or
They have not,
is this
so-
tentative?
This is tentative, so what I'm asking, looking at this, would this sign make sense to you for us to post?
I'd put it up right now.
That's great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's right on.
I will seek count with that. I will look for the council approval to place this sign up there as soon as possible.
Where did I hear or read something about another pole,
Another one.
another pole, another?
Oh,
So the chair, Mark Gutzinger, had asked about possibly doing another survey.
Yeah, I think that's a huge mistake. It's not gonna prove anything.
I think at this point, so there was also some other information that I got today from the county that I didn't have time to put in the packet. We are going to lose our operational funding by 2026 completely. So that's that's $35,000
All right.
that we've been getting will no longer be coming.
That's from the county, that 35, yeah. Well, I don't think there's any choice.
So I think that makes it fairly clear, but you know, that's up to the council to decide how they want to proceed, if they feel that the site has some value or not.
It's just treading water if you have another
Right.
survey.
Right, I think if we were to do some kind of a questionnaire or survey, I would rather have somebody post it out there a few times to actually count how many people use the site and ask the questions directly of people that are actually showing up there, so that we're getting a random sample, a more truly random sample. I think what happened with our last survey is we got a lot of people who had a strong opinion.
All negative.
And yeah, it was largely negative. I don't know that we got what we were looking.
But I don't think there's any choice. I think it's just another formality you're going through for nothing.
It very well could be. I think this is gonna largely come down to a financial consideration for the city council, and if they leave it at that, I think their decision is probably pretty clear. And they have so many other large expenses right now. I think if any of you were paying attention to the last city council meeting, you can see the levy increase the city council has to consider. And this would be just one more thing that they would have to consider next year that could potentially add to that, and they just have to ask themselves if that's worth it or not. So,
What is the status of this potential site out there? I mean, there was gonna be a police area and so on and so forth. Are those still part of the picture? Or is that all in limbo?
the council hasn't made a final determination, but I believe the sentiment is that there wouldn't be a shooting range. There's not as much need for an impound lot anymore. So those two items would likely be dropped from it, but if we did have a site, you're still looking to fence in the same size area. You still have the driveway to get into it. You still have a fence and a gate, lighting, all that stuff that goes into it, so it's not like the project's gonna drop from, I think. There was thought that was close to
Yeah.
$500,000 to build. It's not like it's gonna all of a sudden be $50,000 to build, so I think realistically, the scope of the project hasn't changed a whole lot. And it's still a pretty penny to do this. And I don't,
Probably still gonna be a need though for that part of town. There's,
well, I think we'll continue to operate it as a brush recycling.
yeah, fencing area in there that you have for all this and.
But if it was gonna take the place of the plastics and all that recycling, well, now we need a different type of gate. We need better roads going in and out of there. And I don't know that I see that happening, but that's not my call. So I will bring this to the council meeting next month for approval, and we'll post the sign as is, and they'll probably get some feedback from the sign as whether or not to close it or keep it too, so. All right. I've been long-winded. This probably could have been a shorter meeting, but do any of you have any comments, questions?
On this, or you mean on
Anything.
it? There's a couple things I'd like to bring up, but I don't know if this is the place. But eventually we're gonna end up ruling on this stuff. I think the city's got the city and the county and the chamber or whoever has got to get in gear and and get started on a EV charging station. You know, I mean, we're way behind the curve now as compared to a lot of places. And it's Brainerd's behind, the whole area is behind. And you don't put one of these things in overnight. Fast charging station, you're talking about DC current, and you're talking about, quite a bit of pre-wiring and so on. They aren't cheap, but if you don't do it, it's gonna hurt this area. And I think there's money available, and there will be money available to help. But they really came home to me, and it isn't for local use, really. If you have an EV here, you charge it in your garage. You don't need that fast charger, but it's for people that come up here from the cities 100 miles or 200 miles. They don't want to sit here at one of these little chargers that, 1 kilowatt for hours when they're up here for the weekend. They want to charge it up and they have to charge it. They want to charge it in 15 minutes and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
As staff, we've talked about it a little bit, but, nothing determinate by any means, but what occurs to me is, the city doesn't provide gas stations, gas pumps.
Yeah,
Yeah, but this,
Shouldn't Holiday or somebody provide or,
well,
some
they
private
are,
entity provide
they
charging?
are, the stations are gradually doing it. But in general, you look around the country and almost every city of any size is putting these in and they're putting them in, and a lot of them are in parks.
I agree with you that, but I think it comes down to, does the city participate in it or is it a business that does it? You're right, there are a lot of cities, Minneapolis, Duluth, St. Cloud and whatnot that do this. But they put in DC fast chargers, but they're, as you know, there are a lot of different speeds. They can go from, once you get up into level 2 and you get out of AC, I mean, you can talk about 9 kilowatts all the way up to 350 kilowatt hour.
They
Our
go up,
charging
they're
speeds.
talking about 700 and 800 now.
Right, well, 7,800 volt charging systems instead of a 400 volt architecture, but because right now nothing's capable of charging over 300 kilowatt hours
That's right.
as far as its charging speed for the architecture of the vehicle, but point is, most of the cities are not putting in the real high speed because those are really, really expensive chargers. They're putting in 9 kilowatt, 11 kilowatt, 17 kilowatt charging speeds, which if you're looking at a vehicle that has a 130 kilowatt hour battery, yeah, you could go and park it one while you're downtown and you're going to get 3 miles worth of range while you're driving. Is it worth it?
No.
In my opinion, no. So unless you're going to put something in that's 150 to 350 kilowatt hour, it's really irrelevant for the people that are going to be shopping. Now, the city of Baxter does have eight of those chargers, 8 Tesla chargers at the Arrowwood Lodge. That's a private business. It's Tesla partnering with Arrowwood Lodge and they're providing the chargers in the back of their parking lot.
Those
Now,
have been there about 5 years, I think.
right,
And the only problem there is that you have to have a Tesla to use them. Now,
you,
Tesla is opening up some of them,
They-
but very few.
almost all, the way I understand is almost all destination chargers, which would be chargers that are at hotels like that Arrowwood Lodge, will be opened up in the spring of next year to do it. And those are 150 kilowatt hour chargers. Those are fast chargers.
I'm not talking about people coming here to shop. I'm talking about the people that come up here on weekends and have places up here.
Right.
Uh,
Where are you proposing putting them? I mean, if we put them on Main Street, we don't want somebody
Oh,
parking there
no,
for
I
6
think
hours.
you have an ideal spot here. I've heard that same thing about, well, we have no place to put it. The east side of the park is nothing but a road with a sand road,
Mhm.
right across from the Catholic Church. That's an ideal spot to put chargers. You could actually put a larger lot and make one row of chargers on one side, and you'd have more parking for other things on the other side. Nisswa can use all the parking they can get.
Sure.
You're only a block off Main Street, and yet you don't tie up all the traffic on Main Street because you are blocked off. It's an ideal place.
How far away from a substation is that though?
I don't know electrically where anything is.
Because you're talking about a lot of money to
Yeah,
run power lines that large from a power station.
Our substation is down by Nels's property.
yeah, I don't know if you'd have to run from there. I mean, that's something you'd have to
Right,
figure out.
I mean, those
It-
would
it's
all be
expensive.
considerations that we'd have to take into account. And then again, what speed we want to put in. But
Yeah, I like what Tom said. I don't think the city should get involved in selling electricity to people's cars. That's,
Well,
if Holiday wants to put it
usually
in, or-
what happens is, somebody like Electrify America takes over and they're the ones that handle it. So they have an app. And they're the ones that handle the running the whole thing and the charges and so on.
yeah, if a private company wants to come in and invest some money to do it, great,
Right.
but not tax dollars.
they're going to be looking at density and is there enough would there be enough people using it year round to be able to, for them to be able to make money on it?
Mhm.
And with as seasonal as we are, I just don't know that we have the density to command that.
I can't answer that now, but I think in a couple of years, I think this is gonna snowball, and if you don't start now, you're gonna be so far behind up here, you won't catch up.
Maybe, but to me, I think that that's more of a business decision.
Mhm.
I think that the city and the taxpayer should stay out of that. That we don't, like Tom said, we don't provide gas to people.
Well, that's true, but like I say, if the money's available to put the thing in, and it probably will be. And if you have somebody else running it. The city is not much that I know of.
Well, but they're
They
gonna have
wouldn't
to,
be running it.
they're gonna have to maintain it too.
Well, that's, these companies maintain them.
Yeah.
They don't always do the world's greatest job, I can tell you that.
Right. I mean,
The Tesla chargers, you know. The great thing about those is you just plug into it. You don't have to have an app or anything and it's all automatic, you know, and they were way ahead of their time. They were smart. They put all these in before their cars were on the road, a lot of them. And you can go anywhere in our country and not really think about recharging because they're everywhere.
right,
But it's a real chore for people that don't have a Tesla.
I agree.
I kind of think too, you look at something like Holiday, you know, they've got an attached convenience store. And that's where they're making their profit, but their motivation to keep the gas pumps in good condition is to draw you into their
Sure.
convenience store.
And they're gonna be the ones
You
like
know.
Quick Trip. They ought to be installing those right now.
I would, yeah, and I'm surprised they're not. They must
They
know
are.
something we don't,
They are in some places.
you know. I mean, I'm guessing when it makes financial sense to them, they will.
The Holiday Station down at White Road or whatever it is down. They're putting in chargers there right now.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how big they are. Anyway, I think
Yeah,
it's something
I don't know.
that's you gotta keep on top of because,
You know, if there was an opportunity where the city really didn't incur any expense to establishing them, you know, or help support it in some way, I think we would, but
well, Nisswa, you know, is a little unique in that, these tourist areas are because you get people coming in from long distances. And I've been amazed, over at Grandview, you can go over there almost any day of the week, even middle of the week, and there'll be 3 Teslas parked out in that lot by the new hotel. Now, those are just Teslas.
Mhm.
Well, there are a lot of other EVs out there already that most people don't even know about, and starting this fall now, all the big 3 are gonna start making them, and there's gonna be a lot of EVs around. Now, most of those can be charged in your garage, you know, where you live. You don't have to go to a fast charge, you know, but there's gonna be a lot of people coming into this area that do need them, like on the weekend.
yeah, both of you know more about electric cars than I do. Yeah,
Well, you might start thinking about learning about them.
sure.
You know, you can get a Ford now that's electric, just like yours, except it's electric.
Cost 6 figures.
No, really, they're about the same. One of my kids has one.
I don't think they're winter proof.
Hmm?
I don't think they're winter proof yet.
They lose 10 to 20% of their,
Unless you got to Iowa, they're good.
they lose 10 to 20% of their charges.
Yeah.
So do your internal
My
combustion
nephew works
engines.
for, Tesla. He is actually one of the top engineers he worked with, what's his name? And he can't get, but up to 85% of the power.
Oh, yeah, it drops,
Can't
but
get
like he
closer.
says, the combustion engine, they lose it too, you just don't think about it,
Great.
you know. That's the difference.
Yeah, you lose, but they're pretty equivalent as far as their inefficient or their efficiency loss during the winter time.
And that'll be interesting to see how they, you know, operate in any time. Anyway, that's
Well-
one thing. The other item
Yes.
that I'd like to have the city think about is a second park. I think that, you know, we have a nice facility here and they put a lot of money into the park up here, but it's all downtown. And, you know, Nisswa covers half of a township, a big area, and I think that they should think about maybe establishing another smaller park or two in other parts of the city. And I have one in mind, in fact.
Have you asked Amber if you could?
No,
come talk
that's why
during
I'd
the
like to-
committee?
That's why I'd like her to come to one of these meetings. I'd ask her. In fact, just looking at this map here, the area I have in mind is actually shown here. But I don't know if we want to talk about that at this meeting.
I think it's better at a park commission.
That's probably right. That's why I say, I don't know what's better, I should bring it up. But I think it's something the city should think about.
You know, we are looking at Camp Lincoln. There's,
I'd heard that, and that'd be a good possibility too,
I think that one is being worked on.
is it? I had heard that, yeah. Well, this wouldn't be on that scope. But, I think something to think about.
Fair enough. Anything else? Road, sewer, buildings? All right, well, with that, I guess I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a
Second.
Second by Galen, all in favor?
All right.
We're adjourned.